Oh my God. Hi, everyone. I am so freaking excited for this episode because we booked this, I'm pretty sure, before I even officially launched season 2. So before I even knew who the lineup for the first month was going to be, I was like, Danielle, need you on here. And we're now finally here. So I have got the amazing Danielle Amos with us. Danielle, please do introduce yourself before we just kind of like probably start talking and never stop so that everyone knows who you are.
Well, thank you, Claire. And first of all, I want to thank your audience for listening and you for the great work that you're doing. As soon as we connected, I was like, okay, we speak the same language. You even have a millionaire movement.
I know.
Yeah, and I have a millionaire method, which we launched the millionaire movement. I'm like, okay, we're on the same page, so let's do this. So I'm grateful to be here with you. My name is Danielle Amos. I'm a coach and a mentor, and I see myself as a teacher. Really, I love teaching. I love showing people how to apply success principles to their life. And I believe that, many of us and most of your listeners probably have read all the books. They've, done courses. And a lot of times the books don't change your life because we don't apply what's in the book. Mm-hmm. And so back in 2015, and even before that, I had a very successful corporate career. I was in food tourism and I wasn't happy. And I decided I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And I was introduced to network marketing, which I love that industry. I said yes. And I assumed I'd go right to the top, just like my career. And I didn't. I fell right on my face. I 2.5 years of struggling. I started to question my leadership, my worth, like what was wrong with me, were the ideas going through my mind. And I thought that if I just hustled harder, I would be a success. So I quit my job, my 6-figure job, and I went full into my network marketing business. Well, that put me 6 figures in debt because my income didn't go anywhere. I invested in all the books, went to all the conferences, nothing really changed. And that's when I met my mentor, Bob Proctor. My mom dragged me to a seminar, actually. I didn't want to go. I already told her I already read Think and Grow Rich. I knew what it said. But he said one thing on stage that I'll never forget. He said, your results never lie. And if you don't have the results you want, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know this material. You might say it. You might say law of attraction. You might say all the right. You don't get it. You don't understand it. And it punched me in the gut. Like I was like, holy shit, he's right. He's right. And so I registered for his program, a program that I still coach to this day. 6 months later, I tripled my income. I started winning awards in that network marketing company. My entire life changed and it felt so easy. And it was a mindset shift. It was the energy in which I was taking the action that changed. It was how I was applying this work. It was my self-image. It was my identity. And I knew that I had to help other people understand this because I was so suffering. I was like beating myself up before. And so I then went on to apply to become part of his program and a coach, and I became certified. I used the same material to work my way up in his company. I became one of the top 10 coaches in his industry before he passed away. I was lucky enough to be mentored with him directly for the past 5 years before he passed. So I'm a protege of Bob Proctor. I live and breathe this material, and I freaking love talking about money because I believe that abundance is our birthright. And I like to show people how to have it because it's so much fun when you have it, because I know what it's like to not have it.
Oh my gosh, my brain at the moment is just like, there's so many places we can take this. But oh my God, I love Bob. So I only found him maybe 18 months or so ago. So I was quite late, kind of late to the game in that respect, but too late to kind of do anything in real with him. But as soon as I found his books and his kind of seminars and stuff, I was just hooked. And it's so funny because one of the very first things that I actually used him for, kind of thing, like to help me in my real life, wasn't money, but it was actually to overcome my fear of flying. But it was because of the identity shift, right? Because I knew that part of my future, part of my vision was speaking on global stages, creating global events, holding retreats, this kind of stuff. I wanted to see the world. And I had I can't even tell you, Danielle, like my fear of flying was crippling. Like I would have to pop Valiums, like it was crazy. It was like, don't talk to me like on the plane. It was really, really bad. Like I did go on holidays, but only within a couple hours. And it was like, really not pleasant at all. So anyway, last year, I set on this mission, on this path to overcome that, because if I wanted to step into this next identity, there was a bridge there was a gap that needed to be bridged somehow. And so I made a real kind of point of listening to Bob on every flight that I went on, just like downloading the audiobooks, reading the books, just absorbing as much as I could. And I kid you not, now I wouldn't say I'm 100%, but I'm going to go 99.9%. I'm there. And I'm just like, I don't have to worry about flying anymore. I've done I think 9 hours to Canada was my longest one. And I was like, it's good. I'm good.
Amazing. And that's, a big part of what he taught me was the repetition of the material, like really program your mind. And so plugging in and here's the thing, there's a lot of stuff on the internet, right? So I wouldn't necessarily Google abundance meditations or YouTube it. I personally don't do that. And though there are teachers that, that we can really trust and I think, we can all use discernment in this, but Bob Proctor is definitely one of them. And what he speaks truth, and the truth resonates with the essence of who you are. And so as a human being, I think that he's speaking truth, like universal truth. You're plugging that into your ears, and he's literally reprogramming your mind. Yeah. And it's such a beautiful thing. He would love that story, Claire. He would be so proud of you and so happy. And you did it. So here's the thing. I'd love for your listeners and for everyone to understand. It's like you had the impulse to do that. He didn't do that to you. You did that for yourself. You listened. You had the discipline. You had the intuition, and you followed it.
Yeah.
Bob used to always say, when the student's ready, the teacher appears.
Yes, 100%. And it's that self-discipline as well that he talks about, right? And, I had to push myself out of my comfort zone each time. Yes, I wanted the holiday, but I did not want the flight in the first place to get there. So I had to really push myself to book these holidays in the first place, because I knew once it's booked, I'm going. But then it's like, okay, I'm not going to cop out, right? I'm not just going to go to the doctors and get some Valium, or I'm not going to just sit in my fear. I'm going to do something that is going to help me. And I swear to God, every single time, AirPods in, zoned in to the words and what was happening, and, breathing, all this kind of stuff, really feeling into the fear and where it stemmed from, and just knowing that was no longer my truth, and just knowing that this version of me that I was stepping into, she was good on flights. That was a fun time for her. That was a kind of rest and rejuvenate and enjoy it. And so every time I became more and more of that person, until the point where our next holiday, I'm just like, I can't wait now. It's great. And I know that we were talking about, before we kind of started recording, let's talk a bit about identity work. And I know that's something that you're really big on. And it's this whole, okay, what I would love us to touch on is money and identity, right? Because I think so many of us, and especially if we come into Bob's world, probably we start from the money side, and that's great. Me and you are both absolute advocates of money, but it's when the money is more important than the person and than the work and than the identity that it becomes the blocker, right? So I would love for you to talk about that a bit, Danielle, and maybe how you kind of shift people through that in your world.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. We've got to bridge the gap between a world that says a big part of the world that says money's not important, it's not everything, but yet want it. So if there's a conflict, it doesn't work. On one hand, money's not important. On the other hand, I can't live a day without it. Yeah. So we have this these messages out there that I think we first have to address. Money is very important. And anyone that says it's not doesn't have it and doesn't understand. It's an ignorant statement to say it's not important. What they mean is it's not more important than like our own being and our worth. I get it. But the statement money is not important is a very dangerous one. And I hear so many times, money's not important. Money's not important. It's like, okay, let's stop there, because let's actually speak the truth. So the truth is money is important. So if a person can repeat that to themselves and be good with that in their body, why is money important? Well, money is important because I can't pay for my mortgage with apples. I know that, there's things that I want to be, do, and have in the world, not only for myself, my family, those that I love. And let's be honest, impact, if we want to change the world, impact cannot happen without money.
Yes.
My time can go so far. I can volunteer for a not-for-profit or a charity, and that's that. But it's money that makes the difference. So money is very important, number one. So please remove the not important from your, vocab. The second, be like understanding that there's no other way, and it's just a medium of exchange for service rendered. It's just energy of exchange. And so if we all agreed to exchange apples, that'd be different. We'd place a different value on apples. And so the money as a medium of exchange is just value for service rendered. And so let's leave it at what it is and recognize that there's all this icky stuff around it. We were programmed, and that's a whole other conversation. Why, if the powers that be want to make people not want something, you put it right in front of them and you tell them it's evil. Like they've done it with many things, not just money, by the way. So we've got to look at that. It's not evil. It's actually amazing. So that needs to be regulated, I think, before this conversation. Then, and once we do that, and would you agree with that, Claire?
100%. Like everything you're just saying, yeah, I'm so aligned with. And I was actually talking about this with Kyla last night on the podcast as well, because we were talking about being in the spiritual world and how it's such a massive taboo in that world, especially. And I was just saying, when I first entered, had my awakening and entered that world, I didn't leave the ambitious side of me behind. I didn't leave who I previously was and all these big dreams and hopes that I had. And yet suddenly I was now being told that they were bad and that I shouldn't want nice things and that, all of this kind of stuff. And so I 100% agree. We need to realize that money just is, and it's our stories that we place on it that make us feel like it's good, bad, indifferent, whatever that might be.
And here's the thing. So I often bridge that gap between spirituality and I'm actually adding this to the millionaire mentor title that I was given by Goss and some of my clients. I like it to be like the conscious, the spiritual millionaire, because they go together. Abundance is your birthright. So you are here to experience the most joy, the most money. It's not a bad thing. You get to be both. I get to wear my Gucci and pray.
Yes.
I was wearing my Gucci in the freaking cenote in Tulum, getting healings with shamans. That's a beautiful thing because I like both.
Yes.
I get, and there's a lot of philosophies about attachment and all that, and that's what creates suffering. And I agree with that. It's not what defines me, but I get to love it too.
It doesn't make you a bad person for having it or wanting it. That's, I think.
And here's the thing. Some people might want the most beautiful crystal bowl singing, for healing, or my drum worth a lot of money, and the handmade ones too worth have value. So I think just like you do you, my sister always says to her kids, you do you. And it's all good, whatever you desire. There's no judgment. Because this truth is God's source isn't judging. This 5D realm, spirituality, in that pureness, there is no good, bad, right, and wrong. The law of relativity exists in the 3D world, not up there, not there.
Yes.
The God's eye view, source eye view is nothing's wrong here. You've got free will.
Yeah. Yeah, this is so on point with the podcast that I recorded last night. It's so funny because I swear in season 1 of my podcast here, I used to do my intro as spirituality and success, 3D and 5D, ambition and awakening. Like that was my tagline. Like it was literally like, you get to have it all, because we came to the 3D world to experience the 3D world. And you having more does not mean that someone else has less. Like, we have to realize that abundance is infinite. There will always be more of it. And I think a lot of people who kind of preach, you know, holier than holy, is that they feel that if they have more, they're taking away from someone else. And we have to kind of realize that that's not how it works. They will always create more money. You know, money will just follow movement forever.
Well, money must be kept in circulation. So that's why it's supply.
Exactly.
You know? So, yeah. So then the question you asked was like, because I want to get around to it.
Like, what are we actually talking about?
The block, like what happens if money becomes the identity, right? So, and I've seen that, and I've caught in that trap, because there's also a law of rhythm. I love talking about the universal laws. So there's a law of rhythm that states, you know, that it's, if you think of a tide goes in and out. So you've got seasons in your life, and we don't get upset when winter follows summer. We know what's happening. So there are seasons in your business when you're meant to be sowing seeds, and then others for harvest. Okay. So it's important to understand. And so I've had seasons where, you know, I've earned millions in a year, and then the tide goes out, and I'm like, oh, am I doing something? I remember this feeling. Am I doing something wrong? Start to judge. And I've got to recognize it's a season. And I noticed in that moment, I was like, oh, right. I was feeling really good when the money's flowing. What am I going to do now when it's not flowing as much? Or I've got my expenses are higher than normal, you know? So there can be different reasons why you can feel this. And I noticed for myself, I had created an identity around, I feel great and abundant because I was giving and giving, that I had to like, okay, so what's the feeling now? And can I still be her without that? And that's my test. And that's everyone's test. And so it's teaching a person that your outside circumstances and results it's easy to have a good attitude when they're good. It's a true professional, has a good attitude, has a great self-image, has a great mindset when they're not what you prefer. And it's just a season. And that's a huge piece of this work. For myself, for all of us, because the rhythms happen, I promise you. And anyone that tells you they don't is full of shit.
Yes, quite literally.
Yeah, they just are.
Oh my God. Right. Okay. So that I just love all of that so much, because this has literally been popping up in my world over the last kind of month or so, is these people, like, everyone wants this quick overnight success, right? Like they see it as, you know, social media, the world that it is. It's like we see all of the overnight success and we forget the backstory. Like, we forget all of the crap, all of the failures that person's had, all of the deep inner shadow work, all of the ego deaths, like all of the stuff that they've had to do to get to that point, and probably like years in the making, right? For us vets, like years in the making. And yet they perceive that as them failing. I'm not where they are yet, so I'm a failure. Or I was talking to a client this morning, and she's like, you know, I've been kind of doing stuff for like 23 years, and I'm no further than when I first started. Like, she's had huge success, she's had dips, and she's now at a kind of a dip. And it's like, you can't just discredit all of those lessons, all of that amazing journey that you've experienced. Like, financially, you might feel like you're in the same spot, but emotionally, intelligently, energetically, spiritually, like all of this stuff, you've grown so much. And you had, like, I believe we have to experience those lessons. We have to experience those failures in order to get to our next chapter, because, you know, everything leads us to where we are now. And so we wouldn't be here having this podcast right now had we not had our own journeys that got us to this point right now. And it's taking away, I think my point was there, it's like taking success away from what season we're in, right? It's like being success in ourselves, regardless of the external.
Yeah, it at every level. I believe this is a lesson. And so for your client that's experiencing a dip right now, what if she perceives that as, in an elastic band, like you got to pull it back to make it go further. The further you pull it back, the further that she's willing to feel her feelings in this season, to like not override the emotion, to allow the emotion to run to and through her, for her to get all the guck out, all the shadow work that it's appearing right now because it's coming to be healed. The deeper she's willing to go in that, the stretch, the uncomfortable, the further she's going to go, because what goes down must come up.
Yes.
Now what I think we can do is, I've decided for my own life, I don't need to be a phoenix rising every so often. I can do it, and I'm a very good doing this, but I don't need to hit the absolute bottom in order to shift. I can desire to change. So my law of rhythm, I'm like, can I just, create something like this that's a little more desirable on the nervous system?
The baseline.
And so because I understand this, and it's not a problem if there's a lesson that I've got to learn down here. And it's more the perception. And I really believe it's the energy in which you are. It's the perception, the mindset that you have when you're in that determines how long you stay in it and what comes next.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, it's like flipping that switch, right? Of instead of being kind of, this sucks and like, this is really crappy. And, we get it. Like, we have bills to pay. We live in a 3D world. We need money for certain things. Like, I understand that. But if we can change the focus onto, okay, what is this experience here to show me? What do I need to learn from this? Like, this is showing up for a reason. I truly believe that. Like, everything is showing up as a mirror. Like, there's something I'm missing. Like, I need to switch my lens. There's something, it's probably right in front of your face and you just haven't seen the wood through the trees yet. And as soon as you do, as soon as you surrender to that and you say, okay, I accept the situation for what it is. I release the outcome. I know that this is not forever. This is just a moment and it will pass. And I am open to receive whatever it is that I need to receive. As soon as we surrender to that and we feel it, and like you said, we allow ourselves to feel it, right? We don't just kind of wash over it or try and force our way through it. Like, we allow ourselves to sit in it and to move it through our body. That's when it goes like, ping.
Yeah, that's so good. I just, as you were saying that, I just got an image of if a person can have the ability, and it's not always easy. I think this is why mentorship and coaching is so important, but like to sit in it and notice the lesson while we're in it. I mean, it's easier in hindsight to gather it. And what a cool, thing to be able to do in your awareness and consciousness, to sit in it and go, nothing's wrong here. And there's a way of being that I get to shift, or a mindset, or, belief, like you said, and notice. And we live in the 3D world and we need money. Like, what if you thought just for a moment, like, what's the worst that can happen here? And will I be okay?
Yeah.
And just like don't hold the image, don't worry about it, because then you'll manifest the worst. But like, just allow yourself to say, okay, yeah, I can actually handle that. Because here's the thing, all great leaders, billionaires that you read about, Elon Musk, I don't know, like all these people, they've lost everything.
Yes.
And that. Why? Because they know where the money is.
Yeah.
And so, like, if they can't you? Like, it just, so if you, I don't know, I just got this image of a person sitting there, maybe like being held by a coach or a mentor, and walking through, okay, what's the worst thing? And like, just regulating that. Because I think we don't allow ourselves to go there, and we're trying so hard to force to avoid it. But if you see it and you're like, you know what, I'll be fine.
It's kind of like, I've heard someone else talk about this, and they said, it's like shining the torch. When you're a kid and you're scared of like monsters in the dark, and it's like turning the light on or shining the torch and realizing that actually there is nothing there. It's just our mind kind of playing tricks on us almost. But when we switch the light on, or when we face those fears,
they go away.
They evaporate. Yeah. And I actually really love that. And I think it's quite controversial in the industry. Some people are like, hey, you shouldn't kind of dwell on that. And other people are like, go there and see. And I fully agree, Danielle, because I think when you realize, don't dwell on it, but when you realize that the very worst that can happen, you still are alive. You are still living. You are still breathing. And you still have every bit of knowledge that you have ever gained to date. And now you have a chance to have a clean slate. Now you get to be that phoenix. And like Danielle said, like, we don't always necessarily want to be the phoenix every time. But if you were in that position, it is not the end of the world. And I think as well, like, we haven't really touched on it yet, but that is all about our self-belief. Yeah. Right. And knowing, like we said, Elon Musk, Richard Branson kind of came to my mind. It's like these people know that their success is just inevitable. It's written in the cards. It's like, it's never a question of if, it's a question of when. And that's it. That's it. So every situation is kind of irrelevant as long as you're always moving that needle.
Yeah. And I believe that with each situation that comes to you, that's like an obstacle or a problem. That's when you develop the skills and abilities that have been dormant in your mind. You develop them when that happens. Good, good times don't really stretch us that much.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, sorry, I get really passionate about this. But I was just thinking about your story then. And had you not, kind of crashed and burned and gone into all that debt, you might not have even gone to that Bob Proctor seminar.
Totally.
And then you wouldn't have been on the journey that you were on.
Well, to be honest, I probably would be earning $100,000 a year, which is a great, income, but it wasn't, I knew I was made for more. I would have settled for that and not needed to be in such like a desperate place for money for me to figure it out. And I literally, with $100,000 on credit card debt, like not mortgage debt, like I had that too, credit card debt, to pay for my expenses at a point where I was moving money from credit card to credit card, like that kind of thing, just to pay things off. Yeah. It was insane. Like there was a point, there was no room. Like I had to borrow the money to invest in the program. And I borrowed the deposit. I didn't know where the rest of the money was going to come from, by the way. And I just remember being so afraid and so desperate and praying for an answer, like, show me, there must be a better way, because I couldn't imagine working any harder, Claire. Like I
feel you.
And just putting my hands up, going, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I think that if I hadn't got to that point, I probably would still be reading the books, be like trying to Mickey Mouse my way through it, and not so coachable, to be honest. I never really did what they said.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, I love that. Do you know, okay, so I just want to go a little bit over if I can. I'm mindful of your time, but I just want to touch on, because I think this is so important and so powerful. So when you said about, you had 100K or whatever it was in credit card debt alongside a mortgage. Okay. Yeah. Now, a lot of people listening will be like, holy fuck-a-moly, like, that's crazy shit right there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and I'm really passionate about this, because society makes us feel like debt is bad, right? Unless it's to go to college or university or, fix up your face for some like plastic surgery, it's like, unless it's for this stuff that we tell you is actually okay. But if it's for investing in yourself and to make you a better, stronger person, and to actually generate wealth for you and those around you, and to create an impact in the world, then it's not so sensible, right? Then it's frowned upon. And I would just really love to dig into that just quickly, like what your mindset was around that at the time and how you kind of navigated that.
Yeah. So, I've always had this belief that I was made for more. Like I couldn't explain it, but I just knew. And I think a lot of people on listening probably can agree. Like they just have something that there's something more for them. So I definitely heard people say, and my husband, freaked out. Like, he really doesn't like debt. He really worries about risk. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, it's a period of time, I'll figure it out kind of mentality. And that's why I was willing to quit my job without talking to him, by the way. And so I think that debt is just an agreement to pay something off over time. And debt, I don't see debt for my homes, like mortgage, being a bad debt. I see that as an investment, and I'm using someone else's money to pay and keeping the cash money in my pocket. So I think as long as you get a mortgage rate that you can then use your cash money to invest, and it's better than the mortgage rate, I think you're making a smart decision.
Yeah.
When you invest and you put a program or coaching on a credit card, I also very much agree with that. That's what I did. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here. And my mentality and mindset around that was, I'm going to put this on a credit card that I had to borrow, by the way, and pay 20% on. But I look at what the return on the investment was. Am I going to, so mine was $10,000. This $10,000 I was investing, can I get a return on that investment? And do I believe, can I really bet on myself? Now, when I first invested, the answer was no. I had to actually be really honest with myself and my husband, because I invested in things before and I didn't do them. So I had to promise myself that this was going to be different. And I did the program like my life depended on it. Yes. I did it exactly the way that I was supposed to. And that's the guarantee of the program. It's like, if you do what I say, you can have anything you want. And so I was holding them to it. So I just, like, something switched within me. It was like, okay, this $10,000. So that $10,000 I've multiplied, I've 10x that easily. I mean, 100x it. And I have clients the same. Like I say, you'll double your investment or I'll pay you double, because I know it works. And now, is it the program? No, it's the person applying it. That's our beginning of the conversation. So I would say that a debt's not bad if you can see the return on that investment and see the things you invest in making you better, having that return. Now, if you use a credit card to go out for dinner, different story. I don't agree with that. Although I use my credit card to go out for dinner and I pay it off before there's any interest, because the return on that investment of dinner is in my belly. There is no greater return other than the memory of experience, but I'm not able to put a financial return on that. And that would not be on a credit card.
So good. So would you agree or disagree? This is just putting it out there, that the debt, if you like, or the investment really comes down to your level of self-belief. And if you truly believe that you have what it takes, that you are going to do the work, that you are going to commit, like you said, like your life depends on it. Does that really come down to self-belief versus doubt and fear? And it does, but I don't know that you need it to invest. So what I mean by that, you can borrow a coach's or a mentor's belief in the work. This is where discernment comes in. And I would not hire anyone that doesn't have the results that I'm looking for. Yeah. I look at the results to make sure, like, they've got to be proof, their own proof of concept. So that's really important. And to make sure not only their own results, but their clients get results. So I've earned millions and I have clients who have earned millions. And so I don't say that it's my results that you want to look at. You want to look at my actual clients. And so people will say, well, wait a minute, like, because there was a point when you didn't have clients that got that. Yep. And I didn't give the guarantee. I didn't teach money in the way that I did. Yeah.
Okay. So why I say you can borrow the belief of the mentor, or because I didn't have the belief that I would do it, but I asked good questions and I knew that I needed accountability. Accountability is your insurance against failure. I knew that myself, that I start something huge, and this was my paradigm or my programming or my habitual behavior, I would invest and then fall off in a month. And so I knew that going in. So I needed to make sure that there was accountability and what would happen if I disappeared. And I had to ask, can you knock on my door when I disappear? Because this is normal, and remind me of why I said that. I took responsibility for that. And the coach said, yeah, absolutely. And
Wow.
so I think, like, you don't, to your point, I didn't believe that I was going to do it. I believed that I would do it the way that I always did it.
Okay.
And I was still willing to invest, because this risk, this me putting myself on the line, is actually what made me change.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, just no words for that, because I think just that level of bravery and courage when we're in those positions, and for you guys listening, you know, when you feel like your back's up against the wall, but you know, and I resonate with this so much, you know that you're meant for so much more. Like, you just, and I've said this before, like, you can't explain it. It doesn't make sense to anyone else. It's just a feeling.
I didn't have a choice. I felt like I didn't have a choice. And that's what I said to my mother, who I borrowed the card from. That's what I said to my husband when he said, you are actually putting us in a lot of danger. We don't have the next mortgage payment. And he actually was a hard no. And I said, I've got to do this. I'm doing this. And if that's you and you don't feel like you have a choice, trust yourself. I didn't ask for opinions. I wasn't asking for permission. I'm like, I don't have a choice. I'm getting myself out of this. And you're right. It took courage. But there was no other way. There was no other way.
Oh my gosh. I just love everything about this, Danielle. This has been so amazing and so powerful. And I hope you guys listening, like, re-listen to this, because there is so much golden nuggets in what we've talked about, because there are just so many tangents that we've been on. But I always love it when it's just a story. It's just your journey, right? It's just like, this is just our journeys. And I always say this, like, it's not necessarily about how you teach someone to do something. It's just about sharing what you've been through, what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you, and helping someone else collapse their own timeline and figuring out that stuff for themselves, you know, because we can't cookie cutter everything. It's just about enabling themselves to guide themselves through it, but with you alongside them.
Yeah. And I think that a person, you know, when I said earlier, like, when the student's ready, the teacher appears, I really believe that if you're feeling like you don't have a choice, or there is that next level, to trust that, and you're just going to need to jump, and you'll have the same success story on the other side. And then trust yourself that you resonate, like, have discernment. And when you're picking your mentor, because there's so many choices out there, and you don't have to have it's up to you. You know what I mean? Like, go find that person that speaks to you and jump in and do exactly what they say. Yes. Like, don't
yes.
It's your own. Like, if you knew how to get yourself there, you would be there.
I love that saying. Yeah.
Like, it's true. And if you knew how to be, like, it's so much as identity. If you knew, if you could do it on your own, you would have done it. So
yeah, 100%. And it's like, you know, we always say identity is an evolution, because if you were the person that was living that life, you would already be living that life. So there's obviously work to do. Oh my gosh.
Fun, you know, it's, I really believe that we've turned a tide in our society and this work, conscious evolution on the planet, where there was a time, you know, decades, and where so much of my work for myself was healing. And I think many of us have been doing this work for ourselves for so long that the planet has been healing itself. And as you heal yourself, we heal the world. And so I believe that now it gets to be fun. Yeah, you might have shadow work, and you might go down some dark nights of the souls for sure. But for the most part, I believe that we've turned a tide. And I think it's even being written in the stars a little further, like, even more with this eclipse that's coming up. It's like, it gets to be fucking fun. It gets to be abundant. It gets to
now you're speaking my love language.
Yeah, it's like we've done the heavy lifting, and now it's just like living in our truth, speaking the truth. And the more of us that are doing it, the more the consciousness on the planet changes, and the more people that are in that vibe. And it doesn't need to hurt. We don't need to settle. I promise you, you get to have it all.
Oh my God, I love that so much. I'm not gonna go on another tangent. That's even then I was like, oh my God, no, Claire, rein it in. Danielle, oh my God, this has been so freaking amazing. I love you so much and the work that you do in the world. I will put all of Danielle's links in the show notes, but just quickly, where can everyone find you?
Yeah, Instagram's the best. It's me in there. So if you DM me, I will get back to you. I love, riffing and interacting with people on that. So reach out to me. Let me know if this resonates. And yeah, I'm just so happy to meet people that are also on this journey. And I think I really believe we're better together. And we each carry a code and a key to like understanding the way that the universe works, and really how abundance is our birthright. So let's do this together. We rise together.
100%. We rise and we thrive together. Collaboration at the top. Oh, I love it. So good. Thank you so much, my beautiful queen, and everyone listening. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you go follow Danielle. She is an absolute rock star. All the links will be in the show notes. And until next time, I will see you all soon.
Thank you.